Thanks for exploring teaching and learning materials from MIT Open Learning. We often make use of openly licensed materials to ensure that people like you have an access to high-quality, modifiable resources for your own educational initiatives. My name is Jeff Wilson, and I'm an Intellectual Property Manager here at Open Learning. In this video, I'll be guiding you through a few ways we identify openly licensed materials. My hope is that you'll be able to apply some of these strategies in your own work. Before we go on, just a brief disclaimer. I am not a U.S. attorney, and this video does not contain any legal advice. Before open licensing, the only way to share copyrighted material was through a direct license or a claim of fair use. However, now we also have the ability to share materials through a standard open license. To understand the benefits of open licenses, we're going to contrast that with traditional copyrighted materials. So, what is copyright? U.S. copyright law grants protection over certain types of intellectual property, namely expressive works of original authorship, such as books, songs, photos, and movie scripts. U.S. copyright law creates a limited exclusive right over the protected property, which allows the copyright holder to control publishing, copying, distribution, and derivative uses of the work. Even for educational and non-commercial purposes, reuse of all rights reserved or copyrighted content presents challenges. On the one hand, a claim of fair use requires thorough evaluation and documentation, basically a justification. And even then, a copyright holder may demand that the content be taken down. Third-party license agreements, on the other hand, can be time-consuming and expensive. But now, what is an open license? Simply put, it's a content license that grants permission to access, reuse, and redistribute a work with few or no restrictions. Open licenses are an alternative to traditional copyright protection, as denoted by the copyright C symbol or all rights reserved R symbol. When it comes to open licenses, there are standard ones like those provided by Creative Commons, and there are also many custom or website-specific licenses out there. At MIT Open Learning, we recommend using open license resources because they're generally less restrictive than standard copyright protection. They're also less confusing. The rights and permissions tend to be more explicitly defined, whereas a claim of fair use is inherently more uncertain and subjective until a judge makes a specific ruling. Now, there are two popular types of open content: Creative Commons open licensing and open access. But before we explain what those are, I want to highlight two other alternatives or exceptions to copyright law. The first is the public domain, which refers to all expressive works that are not protected by any right of copyright. The second is fair use, which I've already mentioned. Fair use is an exception to exclusive rights of copyright. While copyright owners may enjoy exclusive rights over their IP, U.S. law stipulates that those exclusive rights are not absolute. Fair use is a carve-out of those exclusive rights, which allows use of copyrighted works for certain purposes, such as research, teaching, criticism, parody, without permission from the copyright holder. Now let's get back to open content. The Creative Commons is a set of standardized copyright licenses, which was conceived as an alternative to traditional all rights reserved copyright. Part of what makes them so useful is how straightforward the licenses are. Each element of a license is explicitly defined so that both authors and users understand what can and cannot be done with a given work. On the chart, the licenses go from least restrictive at the top to most restrictive at the bottom. The first license is shown as CC BY, where BY simply means that a work can be copied or distributed in any form or fashion so long as the original author is credited. Going down the list, certain other CC licenses stipulate further restrictions, such as no commercial use, or NC, or no derivative use, such as ND. With the Creative Commons symbols, what you see is what you get. Here is a great Creative Commons example from an MIT political science course that's available on OpenCourseWare. The course homepage image shows a photo of the U.S. Capitol building. Looking at the attribution, we can see that not only did the course team do a great job of properly attributing the source image, but we can see that they have complied with the CC by NC license that the photographer stipulated. Millions of photos and other multimedia resources are made available online via CC and other licenses. Here is a full-size version of the image. Another benefit of Creative Commons is that it allows users to find their way back to the original source material. The term open access is specific to peer-reviewed research, and it comes from a movement to make research literature more accessible. Traditional academic journals involve exclusive rights and subscription fees, which can be a barrier to open science. Here's one example from a molecular biology class that's available on the edX platform. On the left is a frame from the video lecture showing the professor incorporating material from an open access journal article into their lecture. On the right is the original figure from the journal article itself. As you can see, the article itself is copyrighted, with all rights reserved by the authors. However, they saw fit to make their work openly accessible with a Creative Commons license. The public domain refers to works that are not subject to any copyrights whatsoever. This means that such works can be used by anyone for any purpose without the owner or author's permission. A work can enter the public domain for several reasons. Its copyright has expired. The creator waived their rights of copyright and placed their work into the public domain. And certain works created by or for the U.S. federal government and released to the public are considered public domain by default. One thing to note, entering the public domain is permanent. Works cannot be clawed back from the public domain once rights have been waived or after expiration of copyright. Here's a colorful public domain resource example taken from a fluid dynamics course on OpenCourseWare. The image in question comes from the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory. While attribution is not required, it's good etiquette and a best practice, as exemplified in the caption below the figure. Here we see the figure blown up. This is a global weather chart. The federal government conducts a lot of scientific research and observation, so it's a great place to find content to pair with your teaching materials. Here is just a handful of the myriad sites on the internet that offer up open license, open access, and/or public domain multimedia. These are all resources that we frequently recommend to the MIT course teams that we work with. Thank you for viewing this presentation. We at MIT Open Learning hope that it provides a window to how and where open resources are available to be used with your new educational projects.